What's up, YouTube? Tim Moose here. Here is my Throwback segment where I talk about the films that turns 10, 20, and 30 this week. Alright, the films, not really much turning 10 here. Most of some indies like Touchy Feely from like Lynn Shelton, Hell Baby. But the big one that turns 10 this week is Riddick, which is, of course, the third installment of the Chronicles of the Riddick franchise. This was, of course, directed by David Talley, who's also working on another Riddick, but we'll see if that actually ever happens. And once again, you got Vin Diesel reprising his role as the iconic character with other cast members that includes Jordy Mola, Matthew Naba, Kate Sackhoff, Dave Bautista, Bokeem Woodbine, and Carl Urban. The film Notorious Murder Riddick is portrayed and left for dead on a desperate planet and uses his instinct to survive. And this is actually a really decent follow-up. I mean, Vin Diesel really embodies the role perfectly. I mean, obviously when you think of Vin Diesel now, you always think of like Dominic Toretto, but he has of course played other iconic characters, whether it's like Xander Cage, whether it's Riddick, and whether we get another Riddick is like they're talking about another Riddick for a while, but who knows if that's actually ever going to happen. Because frankly, some of like Vin Diesel's like non-Fast and Furious movies don't always become hits, and Riddick like did okay, I guess, but wasn't really a Fast and Furious level hit. But anyway, I mean, if you really look at it, it was just Fast and Furious in space. That's why I always got from this. Anyway, film turning 20, we got Dixie Roberts, a former child star. Now, this was directed by Tom Wiseman and starred David Spade, who also co-wrote the film. Other cast members also includes Mary McCormack, John Lovett. You also had Todd Bridges, Tom Arnold, Rachel Dratch, Retta, Doris Roberts, Jenna Boyd, Rob Reiner, Alyssa Milano. Um, you even had iconic child stars such as like Barry Williams, Corey Feldman, Corey Haim, Manuel Lewis, Dustin Diamond, Danny Bonaducci. And this is actually produced by Happy Madison. And if you guys don't know much about the story here, David Spade portrays this former child star who fell into absurd obscurity as an adult, and he attempts to revive his career by getting a part in a Rob Reiner film. And the movie did not really get much love, but I've always loved Dixie Roberts. You know, David Spade, definitely one of my favorite David Spade roles. Of course, he had a very young Janet Boyd who would go on to star in that Netflix series Atypical. Mary McCormack was also in this. I really like this movie. Definitely sheds lights on child stars trying to make pretty much make a comeback and make it big again. Really cool to see we are getting like child actors like really making comebacks. Like of course, Ki Hu Kwan definitely just made a big comeback here. So yeah, and it's really fun to see like cameos by iconic child stars here. You know, from the likes of the Coreys to Dustin Diamond, and I think that was pretty cool to see. But yeah, this is a really fun comic if you guys haven't seen that. All right, we also got Home Alone 4, which is actually a TV movie, but still. The film, of course, starred Mike Weinberg, French Stewart, Missy Pyle, and it literally tells the story of Kevin McAllister, who goes to spend his Christmas with his father and his new girlfriend, as his old enemy Marv and his wife Vera come up with a plan to kidnap a visiting prince with the help from an inside person that Kevin least suspects. Uh, oh boy. And this is actually pretty much the first Home Alone movie to not be scripted, like having impact by John Hughes, which hey, I actually don't mind Home Alone 3 by the way. Like obviously it does not have the same charm as the first two Home Alone films do. But I never really mind Home Alone 3. Home Alone like the last three Home Alone movies, one of which is of course Home Alone 4 here. Oh god, this movie was terrible. I mean, you literally had, of course, Kevin McAllister here, not played by Macaulay Culkin, obviously. Um, once again, trying to take down Marv, but this time, not really, not played by Dana Stern. This time, like you don't have Joe Pesci popping up in this, I mean, you pretty much have the weapon, like one of the wet bandits and his wife in this. So yeah, I mean, the best Home Alone movies will always be the first two. You know, with Macaulay Culkin, Joe Pesci, Daniel Stern, and for some reason they thought it was a good idea to release this thing around the fall time rather than the Christmas season. I always found that to be weird, but yeah, Home Alone 4 is just a dumpster fire. I mean, maybe not as bad as the last one we had that came on Disney Plus, but yeah, not to just beats the first two Home Alone films, you know. All right, we also got an Australian horror film called Undead, which was directed by the Spielberg brothers, who would go on to direct Jigsaw as well as the not so great Helen Mirren movie Winchester. Now this now this is of course an Australian zombie film where residents of a small Australian fishing village become zombies following a meteor shower. Those who manage to avoid the fate of others must band together in order to find a way out. And this is actually not that bad of a film. I mean, it definitely has like the zombie elements. I thought was really cool. It was pretty bloody at times. I mean, these directors are a little bit of a hit and miss here. But this is a really intriguing one. They also did like the movie Daybreak with Ethan Hawke, which was a vampire film. They also did like Perpetrator, which also had Ethan Hawke in it. So they've done some intriguing stuff too. All right, we also got a film called Homeroom, which is also another horror film here, where like a deranged teen kills several fellow students, leaving it girl Deanna Cartwell, played by Erica Christensen, alive but badly wounded. Police detective Martin Van Zandt, played by Victor Garber, suspects that student Alicia Browning, played by Busy Phillips, a misunderstood outsider who wasn't hurt, had a role in the murders. Now, this is actually a little bit unforgettable one. I mean, it's not that great a film, but of course, you had like Busy Phillips, you know, from Cougar Town fame, Victor Garber, obviously from Titanic and Legend of Tomorrow fame, Erica Christensen, who at the time was doing stuff like Swim Fan. She was in The Upside of Anger. She doesn't really do as much as she used to nowadays, but she was interesting. So not a bad film, just a little forgettable, really. All right, we also got the mystery horror film The Order, starring the late great Heath Ledger, directed by Brian Hegland. You also had Mark Addy, and the film revolves around the investigation of a suspicious death of an exhumated priest and the discovery of Sin Eater headquarters in Rome. And this is actually not that great a film. I mean, of course, Heath Ledger and Mark Addy have worked together before on A Knight's Tale, which is much better. But their like reunion here just was not all that great. It was completely horrible. So Heath Ledger couldn't even save this film either. So yeah, I mean, of course, at the time Heath Ledger was pretty much having like a big break with stuff like A Knight's Tale, 10 Things I Hate About You. Obviously, he would go on to play the Joker, but not everything he was in turned to gold, and The Order was one of them. All right. Now turning 30 this week, we got the film California, starring then couple Brad Pitt and Juliette Lewis. We also had David Duchovny and Michelle Forbes. It was directed by Dominic Sena, who also directed the John Travolta classic Swordfish and the Nicolas Cage films Gone in 60 Seconds and Season of the Witch. This was actually his directorial debut, though, and tells the story of a journalist played by Duchovny and his photographer girlfriend, played by Forbes, traveling cross country to research serial killings, and of course, who are of course unwilling carpool psychopath, uh, with a psychopath played by Brad Pitt and his girlfriend played by Lewis. Now, of course, Juliette Lewis at the time really had an act for doing like for playing crazy roles. You know, of course, she was coming off of of course, this was around the same decade. She would go on to star in Natural Born Killers. So, yeah, she had a habit of just driving around with a killer here and playing killer herself. So, Yeah, it's actually a really intriguing film. I love the serial killer aspects. David Duchovny's great in this. The chemistry between Pitt and Lewis is great. Really terrific film if you guys haven't seen that. All right, we also got a movie called King of the Hill. Not to be confused with the Mike Judge and Mitch show, by the way. King of the Hill, of course, starred the likes of Jesse Bradford, Karen Allen from, of course, Marin from Indiana Jones fame, a very young Adrian Brody, a very young Katherine Heigl, and the film tells the story of a boy struggling to survive on his own in a hotel in St. Louis after his mother enters a sanatorium with tuberculosis, and his younger brother is sent to live with his uncle, his father, and a German immigrant and traveling salesman working for the company here. And this is actually a very underrated, appreciated film. It's actually like it is, of course, a coming of age tale. Adrian Blake, of course, you had a very young Adrian Brody. He was really terrific in this. Jesse Bradford was great, really good flick if you guys have seen it. We also got the movie Calendar Girls, which starred famed '80s icon Jason Priestley and Jerry O'Connell. Of course, this was directed by John Whitesell, and it took place in 1962 and tells the story of three young men who goes on a trip to Hollywood to fulfill the dreams of meeting Marilyn Monroe. It of course has similarities to the real life story of Gene Scanline, who in 1953 crossed America with a friend and had a date with Marilyn Monroe for which she paid the bill. And this is actually a really terrific little film. Of course, the chemistry between Jason Priestley and Jerry O'Connell is great. Gabriel Oz was also great. The script was pretty decent. Very underrated film if you guys haven't seen it. Of course, seeing like a film where like someone wants to go abroad to meet their favorite celebrity is a little odd, but it was pretty charming here too. So not a bad flip there. All right, we also got the sci-fi movie Fortress, which was directed by horror icon Stuart Gordon, who gave us Reanimator, and starred Christopher Lambert. And the story takes place in a dystopian future where the main character, John Henry Brennick, played by Christopher Lambert, and his wife, Karen B. Brennick, played by Lachlan, are sent to a maximum security prison because she is pregnant with a second wife, which is against strict one child policy. And this is actually not that great a film. Like, if you want to see a better movie called Fortress, go watch. I mean, it actually has its fans, but I was never one of them. But if you want to see a better movie called Fortress, go watch like this Australian-based movie with Rachel Ward, where she like goes take her students on like a trip, and there's like these like people in a mask held them hostage. That is actually a better movie called Fortress. But this and its sequel is not all that great. I mean, it's a shame too because Stuart Gordon, obviously a horror icon, but I could never really get into Fortress at all. Like, it did have a cool premise, but yeah, I just was not a fan of it. And I've always liked Christopher Lambert. Obviously, where they talk about more combat, Highlander. But yeah, this movie is just not that great a film in my opinion. All right. We also got the film Boxing Helena, which stars Sherilyn Fenn, the late great Julian Sands, and the late great Bill Paxton. Now, the movie follows a surgeon whose growing obsession with a woman leads him to hold her captive in his home after she suffers a car accident, and to amputate her limbs to keep her captive. And this is a really crazy film. Like, it's really intense. Like, the cat and mouse game is interesting. I mean, of course, you got Julius Sands, who RIP, gone way too soon. He was really terrific in this. Love seeing Bill Paxton popping up in this. Really intriguing film if you guys haven't seen it. But that's pretty much it there. Let me ask you guys, which of these films stand out to you the most? To me, the 10-year one, I'm going to go with Riddick. The 20-year one will, of course, be Dixie Roberts, a former child star. And the 30-year one is going to be California. Drop comments below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, hit that bell for notification. This is Sammy signing out.